We're going to continue with the national updates. First up is Neal Galehouse. Neal is an engineering specialist at the National Center of Pavement Preservation.
All right, I'm going to give a brief update on some of the things we've been doing at the National Center for Pavement Preservation. To start out with our TSP2 partnership meetings. This is the second meeting being held this year. The first was a Southeast meeting that was held 2 weeks ago in West Virginia. So there's 2 more meetings left in the course of this year. The partnership is interested in sending somebody to one of the other partnership meetings as a representative or has other information to share. These are the dates for those meetings. Next bit of information I'd like to share is about the next National Pavement Preservation Conference. These are typically held every 4 years. Normally that would be in 2020. We've made the decision for this next meeting to move it to 2021 to take it off the election cycle. We've had issues with a lot of states being able to get a travel approval that close to an election. So the hope is that by moving it off the cycle, that'll be able to increase participation a little bit. Date is May 17th to the 20th, and it's going to be held in Indianapolis, Indiana, downtown. There's going to be plenty of space for exhibits. We hope that you'll all join us for that event. The location is in close proximity to a number of states. It's within a day's drive of several states, so we hope that agencies will be able to have a good turnout to that event. And so we're going to be working to put together a good program and demonstration program as well. TSP2 state contributions. These are the contributions that have been sent in over the past several years. Fiscal year cycle runs July 1st to June 30th. So far this year we've received 41 contributions. We're working with states that haven't submitted those yet, and so our expectation is that those results will be consistent with what we've had over the past few years. A little bit about local agency participation. We're working to increase participation of local agencies in the partnership that might benefit from some of the information that's shared here. We're looking at creating a membership category for local agencies to participate in TSP2. There's going to be a TSP2 oversight panel next week where they're going to vote on a plan for that. And the idea is that there may be some type of membership category that's created and that would cover their travel expenses and make it easier for them to participate year after year in the program. That'll be discussed next week, and hopefully we'll have some more information about that shortly thereafter. We'll be exhibiting at the National Association of County Engineers next week in Kansas. We're also continuing our efforts through our existing pavement preservation councils. If you're not familiar with our YouTube page, we do have a presence on YouTube. All of our meetings are recorded, so the proceedings of the meetings are made available. We also have other technical videos on the site. We have a number of subscribers and we're watching that number go up. So if there's an interest in some of the technical information out there, please consider this a resource for that. Our views, we've seen consistent growth in the number of views each year. We've also seen an increase in the number of minutes watched, as well as an increase in the number of minutes watched per view. Credit to Zach and all his work in maintaining our YouTube page. Another way to sort through some of this information, we have links on the TSP2 website for the video library, and they're organized by topic area. So if there's a particular topic you're interested in finding more information about, you're able to sort it this way, and a number of the high-value videos on that topic are available through the TSP2 video library. So I want to quickly mention training opportunities available through NCPP. A fair amount of discussion this morning at the agency meeting about training. There's a number of different sources for training, one of those being instructor-led training. All of the courses shown on the screen are available for instructor-led training. There's continuing education units available through Michigan State University as part of those classes, so if that's something of interest, please let us know. We've been involved the past couple years with the FHWA EDC4 program. We're a contractor for the how portion of that. Part of that is to hold 10 pavement preservation peer exchanges between neighboring states, and so at this point we're through about half of those, and then the remainder will be completed within the next 1 to 2 months. Another piece to this project is updating the existing pavement preservation checklist. You may be familiar with those existing paper checklist booklets. Those are being updated for technical content, and they're also being converted into a web app. And so those will be available through the App Store, Apple, Google. You can download those and have those available in the field. There's also going to be some embedded videos with those to kind of talk through key inspection points. So those should be available probably late summer, early fall, somewhere in there. And in addition to the 15 existing checklists, there's 8 new checklists that are being added, and those are shown on the screen. I want to mention the Emulsion Task Force. This was moved under the AASHTO TSP2 in 2015. The mission of the ETF is really centered around 4 key areas. The first is advancing the effort to develop performance-based methods and specs for asphalt emulsions. And the goal of that is really the development of emulsified asphalt performance-graded specifications. The others are encouraging the adoption of uniform national standards, advancing quality assurance training and certification. I'm going to get into that briefly. And ensuring the implementation of new test methods, quality systems, and future research. So to give a little bit of background about the AASHTO TSP2 certification program, this was approved by the AASHTO TSP2 Oversight Panel and endorsed by the ISSA Board of Directors. This past summer at the AASHTO MAC committee meeting, a resolution was passed that encouraged states to require the certification of agency and contractor personnel who are responsible for the design and construction of preservation treatments. And why certification? The idea here is that the certification program is confirming that the people involved have the necessary knowledge of the treatment through a verified examination process that's administered by an independent third party. And so this certification process is a written exam. It's 50 to 80 questions, true, false, multiple choice. It's closed book. So we're really testing that people understand this treatment that they're performing out in the field. So certifications are currently available for slurry systems, which cover slurry seal, polymer modified slurry seal, and microsurfacing. Chip seals, which is emulsion-based chip seals, and crack treatments. So here we have the topic areas that are common to the examination. We have a different exam for contractors versus agency. It's based on what they really need to know to be successful in the field, but both sets of exams focus on these common topic areas. To date, we've issued 413 certifications on roughly 600 exams. So the pass rate for agency right now is about 62%. For contractors, it's about 70%. I would say it's somewhat of a challenging exam, but I feel that those people who spend adequate time preparing to take the exam tend to do quite well on it. For those who pass, they're entered into a searchable national database on the TSP2 website. So you can pull that up. You can search by name. You can search by organization. There's a number of ways you can identify the people who have that certification. And then in addition to the database, the people who pass the exam receive a card like the one shown on the screen. And each certification issued is valid for 3 years from the date they took the exam. So these exams are offered in conjunction with the partnership meetings. We try to send out notice of that about a month beforehand. For larger groups, we can also schedule exams at your facility. For smaller groups or individuals or anybody maybe that needs to take a retake exam, they're offered through the consortium of college testing centers that are located across the country. I think there's roughly 400 of those, so most states have several of these locations that somebody can make an appointment pretty well anytime 8 to 5 and go in and take an exam and have them proctor that. And then there's also an opportunity at the ISSA Slurry Systems Workshop in Las Vegas each year. Have a number of people that take it there. Here's a map showing states that have participated so far in the TSP2 program. Now this is anybody shown in yellow. This is a state where either a contractor, an agency, or consultant, somebody has taken a TSP2 exam. So since last year, we've had probably 4 or 5 states that have sent someone for the first time. And finally, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the company certification, and this is separate from the individual certification that we just talked about. This past August, we just issued the first company certification to Seal Coating Inc. in Massachusetts, and they went through this process that I'll explain briefly. We wrote up an article for the Pavement Preservation Journal this past winter that kind of detailed the process they went through to obtain their certification. The picture on your screen shows a number of individuals that received their individual certification and contributed towards putting together this company certification. They're holding the plaque they received for obtaining their certification. So to talk about the requirements of the company certification, there's really 3 components to that. First is, and the main part of this is, develop and submit a detailed quality control plan. And I'll talk a little bit about what that is in just a second. The second is, have key employees that possess individual certification. And for a contractor, this is going to be the superintendents, the foremen, and the equipment operators. And finally, document that field employees participate in 4 hours of classroom and 4 hours of on-the-job training each year. So the certification itself is a 1-year certification for the company. So they will submit a quality control plan, and they will identify who their key employees are that work for the company that currently have certification, and then they're going to document that training. Now, classroom training could take the form of company trainer-led training or superintendent-led training. It could involve somebody from a third party coming in and doing the training. It could involve them going to the Slurry Systems Workshop. There's a number of opportunities available for them to fulfill that requirement, but there will be a documented sign-in sheet of who's participated in that. So to talk about the quality control plan a little bit, this is sort of a draft outline of what's included. And it's up to the company exactly how they're going to fulfill this requirement. But to talk a little bit about what this might look like, to start out, there's scope and reference documents. And this is the applicable guidelines, specifications, special provisions like AASHTO, ASTM, ISSA, state-specific requirements where the contractor works. Definitions, it's the terminology used for these treatments. Quality control personnel, that's identifying who specifically has the certification at that company for that treatment. Quality control testing facilities and equipment. This is looking at who's responsible for testing the emulsion, who's responsible for testing the aggregate, who's developing the mix design, how are material substitutions being handled, things like that. Materials control, what type of material is allowed and what are the properties of that material, what are the sources of the material. If we're talking about microsurfacing, for example, we're not just talking about the emulsion and the aggregate, but the water, the mineral filler, things like that. Quality control sampling and testing, what is the lot size for the aggregate and the emulsion, how frequently is the material being tested, where is the sample being taken, all of those sorts of things. Production equipment, what equipment is the contractor going to use on the project? If we're talking about microsurfacing, are we talking about truck-mounted paver, continuous paver? What additional equipment or support equipment is being used? All of those types of things. Part 8, treatment placement and workmanship. This is really everything that's being done in the construction process, starting with calibration. So how is the calibration going to be done? How often is calibration going to be done? The placement plan should also cover pre-application on both the pavement surface and the equipment. So what checks need to be done on the distributor or the placement machine? Has the road been swept? Have the cracks been sealed? And then the plan should cover the placement itself. When talking about workmanship, this is identifying best practices for items like joints or handwork to produce a quality job. Documentation, what records are being kept and where will they be kept? And finally, nonconformance and corrective action. So we spent a lot of time in the quality control plan talking about when things go right, but what about when things go wrong? What kind of potential problems for this treatment might arise and how are they going to be handled if they do? You know, if there's drag marks or uneven joints, what is the contractor going to do to correct that problem? So as you can see, this is intended to be a detailed, thorough plan. When they write this out, they may end up having something that's 15 or 20 pages, but the idea here is that this is a document that is taken to the pre-construction meeting, it's shared between the contractor and the agency, and both parties really understand what's expected on the project, and if things start to deviate from that plan, they should both be aware of that and be able to rectify that situation. So the benefit of having certified people and certified companies is that we're really raising the bar on the quality of preservation. So as I said, this is really just a draft. We have something. If there's any contractors out there that are interested, we can share some more pieces to this as they try to work towards setting up company certification. Is there any questions?
Just wondering what group size you'd need to come up to Nova Scotia, say, to put on the training as well as the exam.
Ideally, we'd probably be looking around 20 people or so.
And what states have included in their specifications that contractors have to be certified? It'd be nice to see an example of what they've written into their specs, or at least go try to make contact and find that.
We've had, the state of Nevada has already required that. We've had other agencies that do it more on a district level or regional level so far. It's still early on in the program, but I can get you some contacts if you'd like more information about that.
Do you have course materials available that can be seen online for like the chip sealing exam and things like that?
As far as training materials or
Yes.
preparatory materials, yeah, the main source of the training material is the ISSA web-based training that Jason talked about earlier. The intention is to go through that and review that material. We have a supplemental session guide for chip seals and slurry systems, and that is a PDF document on the TSP2 website. So those are the two sources of material for the certification program.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.